The Unfiltered by Jade.
Jade. Welcome to The Unfiltered by Jade, where we educate, empower, and entertain. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, download, donate, and make everybody know about this.
Beats by RB Records.
Shopping assistance, your style, your budget. Our services include online and local shopping for individuals and businesses, personal shopping, purchasing of company and office supplies, importing and exporting small packages across Jamaica and worldwide, and helping you find unique gifts and items for all events and occasions. Contact us at 876-919-5195 or shoppingassistance2015@gmail.com. Shopping Assistance, your style, your budget.
Welcome back to The Unfiltered by Jade. Today we have with us here Tina Nomad. We're going to speak about nomads. Who are nomads? What do they do? There are many times that we just hear about it and without having the background information about who they are, what they do, why they call it so, we just kind of sometimes, move it away and don't explore more. But we're here with Tina and she's going to give us some more information about who a nomad is. So hi, Tina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. So Tina, she is a speaker, she is a nomad, she is a multilingual speaker, she is an amplifier and actualizer of human potential, and she is the subconscious BioHacker. And I'm happy to share with you today in terms of the conversation that we're going to have. So, Tina, can you let our audience know what does it mean to be a nomad in today's world?
Yes. Well, I think for different people, it's different things. If I were a nomad in Mongolia, for example, that would be a lifestyle in that country where you kind of pick up and move, moving around. And, I have traveled in Mongolia and they have gears and, well, we call, they're called, we call them yurts, but that's just Russia's word for it. But they're gears. And so they're portable lodgings and they stay in one place for a while and they pick up and move to another. For someone like me, it means that, I kind of see myself as a global resident. I do the same thing, but I do it across countries. I'll stay in one place for a while and then I'll pick up and move to another place. Or I may have several places that I'm living at the same time. Always moving, exploring. I feel like, there's this one life that we know of, and I feel the responsibility to kind of see and do and experience as much as possible in this life. And I feel very privileged to, have been, born with the ability, not with money necessarily at all, but just having English as a first language, which gives me the ability to kind of, live and work almost anywhere in the world. And I take full advantage of that.
Yeah. And has it always been like that, or is it something that you started doing when you got older?
Well, I grew up listening to stories from my family, my grandmother, my mother, and they all, because of my grandparents' jobs. When my grandparents were together, they moved because of my grandfather's jobs, lived all over the world in Japan and Hawaii and different places. And then when he left, my grandmother, then she ended up taking a job at the NSA and then working in Turkey and Germany and England. And I grew up listening to all kinds of stories, and my mom telling me, growing up in junior high school in Turkey and high school in Germany. And my parents just happened to move a lot when I was young, mainly around the US, but I never really, as a result, I never really had a home base, so to speak, like a lot of people do. And so I moved from one coast to the other, from north to west, and north, east to west, and north to south. So yeah, I never had that home base. And I think that kind of created that ability in me. So once I got of the age, I started to travel abroad on my own, I think around, 16, going with school projects and things like that, or to go to visit a high school friend from Mexico during the summer. And I started to do that by myself when I was about 16. And then, yeah, once I hit university, I took full advantage of the study abroad programs, and then I'd backpack in my breaks and things like that. And once I graduated, I just kept going. And it was, instead of across the US, it was across the world.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Nice. What are some of the different types of nomads, and how do they differ in lifestyle and motivation?
Well, I mean, I think the different styles, I first started out, I used English a lot, even though I didn't go to school to be an English teacher. Like I said, we're pretty blessed, for those people that are born in the US or another English speaking country, and I didn't grow up with money. I actually grew up the opposite of that. I grew up in a single home, and pretty on the poverty level, but I learned how to become very resourceful. I also studied hard. And then I learned what a gift it was to have English as a first language and to be able to use it. And so, I moved to China, and I taught English in China to junior high school students. I lived in Japan. And Japan was I like to say, my base, because I traveled a lot during that time, for 9 years. I worked in the educational system, and then I had, my own job. I took my own business as a one-on-one instructor, teaching, private groups and things like that. And I took full advantage. I taught in Spain as well, took full advantage of just having the English language. So I think that's one way that people are nomads, is that they take advantage of having English as a first language, or whatever other skill they might have that's marketable in another country, and they go and get a job there in whatever it is, whether it's teaching English or something else. And then they stay there for a while, and they move on to the next one, and they stay there for a while and move on to the next one. Nowadays, with the digital nomad, then that's opened up a different style of traveling. So if you have the ability to work online, then you're able to stay anywhere you want, as long as you're able to get some kind of a visa. And a lot of countries are having, better visas for that. Then, you can just stay, 3 months here and 3 months there, because you're working and getting your money online. So I think that's kind of the main style. And then we started with the first example of, like, Mongolia, where you're nomadic with inside a country. And, there's a lot of people, not just in Mongolia. Right now I have a couple of residences right now. One of them is in Mexico, in Baja, and the other's in Ireland. And, they have in Europe, not just in Ireland, in Europe, they have, gypsies and travelers. And so that's another type of nomadic people that have been doing that for a long time. They usually travel in caravans, in larger vehicles and things like that. And they may post up somewhere for a while, and then they go, and then they move on to the next place. And that kind of takes that whole Mongolia type of thing to a similar level, but, moving around in a region. So yeah, that's the kind of the nomads that I'm familiar with right now, and the nomadic lifestyles.
Okay. That's interesting, though.
Yeah.
Because you don't normally hear about the different types. You just think that there's a nomad, and that's it. You don't, generally there's no category, or we don't normally hear the categorization of them.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Well, it's not, no one's ever asked me that before, so it's interesting to kind of put it together. And then having witnessed the gypsies and the travelers too, and they're definitely nomadic. They don't stay in one place, and they like that lifestyle, and they're usually born into it. And just like, the Mongolians, they're born into that lifestyle, and they continue that. So yeah, versus someone like me who chooses it.
What challenges and obstacles do nomads face daily, and how do they overcome them?
Well, I mean, going into different countries each time takes a lot of adaptability and a flexible mindset, and a willingness to learn about different people and cultures, and to know that, things aren't always going to work out the way that we maybe want them to, or, based on where we're from, this is how things are supposed to work out. Well, living here right now in Mexico, things don't always work
Right.
out the way that they would in a Western country,
Right.
and there's a lot more challenges to that, especially in third world countries. And I've lived in quite a few, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that you can do and in third world countries that you couldn't do in a first world, and you can afford a lot more, and you can get someone to come to your door and fix your car or whatever it is. And so there's the challenges are there with the difficulties if you don't speak the language. Communication can be a barrier, getting taken advantage of by people that see you as someone that has more than them, which is true, even though you may not have a lot of money compared to other people from where you're at. You still definitely have more than most people in any third world country. And so, there's a level of thought that has to go into, what you're doing. So communication and, being cautious sometimes about, where you put your money and what you do with things. But again, to me, the advantages always win out if you learn how to be adaptable and a little bit savvy.
Yes, you can make it.
Yes, exactly.
What environmental and sustainability considerations are associated with nomadic living? And how do nomads minimize their environmental impact?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of ways nowadays. I mean, there's online resources that'll give you the ability to, how can I offset my plane ticket, or the cost of flying not the cost of flying somewhere, but the environmental impact of flying somewhere. So there's resources you can use online to show you how to balance it. I mean, personally for me, I try to be conscientious wherever I'm at and respectful of the place. And even if people are throwing trash on the ground wherever I'm at, I'm not going to throw trash on the ground because I know better.
Right.
And if I have the ability to recycle things, then I'm going to go that extra step and separate things and recycle, even though it's not a common practice wherever I'm at. And public transportation, not only does it give you a good way to be part of a culture, but it is a good thing, for the environment to use, public transportation versus always getting your own. So those are
Right.
some of the few ways that I do. And then there's other ones online. You can take it up and you can find a tracker that helps you to offset your carbon imprint.
What are some benefits and rewards of the nomadic lifestyle? And what keeps the people committed to it over the long term?
To me, I mean, there's obviously a lot of challenges, like, as I talked about, but the benefits and rewards to me always win out over anything else.
Mhm.
The benefits and rewards of a nomadic lifestyle, we're all born in one country, wherever I'm born, and you, Jade, you're born in Africa, and it sounds like you've lived in, Jamaica, and, we're all born in different places. But the reality is, if we stay in the place that we were born, not just the country, most people stay in the exact same place that they were born, the same town. The issue with that is that our perspectives tend to be very limited.
Yes.
And it's limited based on only where we're from. And so people tend to, and it brings a lot of conflict in the world, which we see now, especially in the political environment. And people are very married to, this is right, this is the only way to see things. And that's what happens when you're raised being taught that what you see right in front of you is the only truth. And so it's kind of like thinking about, there's a painting in front of you and you looked at your whole life and you're like, okay, this is true. And you're like, yes, it's true. I can see it. It's right there. Of course it's true. The issue with that is saying that is the only truth, when what you don't realize is that painting is more like an entire globe.
Yes.
And there's a different aspect of it on each side. And because you haven't moved anywhere else and you haven't gone anywhere else, all you're seeing is what's smack in front of you, which
Yes.
may be correct, but it doesn't make what other people are seeing all the way around
Yes.
any less correct at all. And so they're all right. So when you travel and you become more of a global resident, like I do, you start to see yourself, to see your country, to see the world through the view and perspectives of people all over the world. And that shifts things. And there's nothing in the world, no amount of reading, no amount of study, no amount of hearing it, that can change that global perspective for you, than actually stepping into the shoes of people in other countries and seeing what they see as they see it.
Yes.
And that is more invaluable than I can possibly say. And I would say anybody that has the ability to be able to do it. And again, for me, a lot of people that I talk to in the US, they think it takes a lot of money to travel. And being very resourceful as I was, it doesn't. I learned how to travel so cheaply because when I first started, I didn't have any money. I was actually traveling on student loans and I was on credit cards. And I learned how to use hostels and to sleep on trains if I already had the ticket and to do things or to get the job, just teaching English that paid for all of my expenses somewhere. There's ways to be resourceful so that you can have these experiences without having to come in and have the money already to do it. You can be paid to do it. But that perspective is more invaluable than I can ever possibly say. So if you haven't done it, make it a priority and start to see the world and actually experience it and not just be in the tourist bubble. Most people when they travel, especially Americans, when they travel, they remain in a tourist bubble. They're in these resorts. They're in these places that it's kind of like a little copy of where they came from, but it's implanted into another country. I went to Jamaica. We're speaking of Jamaica, and that's a really good example of that. Most people that I know who've been to Jamaica, that's the way they experienced it, was inside, the resorts. And they just kind of got to, the entertainment that was provided them, or they were bused somewhere to see something. And it's just really pick and choose versus being actually in it with people and going to the local places and staying in local places.
Immersing yourself in their culture.
Exactly. So if you're going to do it outside the tourist bubble and actually be part of the culture. And that's the way to really start to shift your perspective and have an enhanced experience and view of life that nothing else can give you.
Love that. I want you to discuss the concept of digital nomadism and how it has become increasingly popular in recent years.
Yes, with the new digital world, and I think the pandemic really enhanced this. To be honest, I mean the pandemic was a drastic thing, for the world, but at the same time, it opened up a lot of things for us on the virtual level. And, for me and my job, as a subconscious biohacker, and I help people upgrade their subconscious mind but now after the pandemic, I've been able to go fully online with that. And a lot of other people did the same thing. What I do works the same online as in person because a person's eyes are closed anyways. A lot of digital nomads have their own, either maybe they're working for a company, but they no longer have to go into the office. Often the pandemic has opened that up and they can work from home, which means they can work from anywhere. Yes. Other ones have taken a skill. Maybe they're website designers or they do marketing or, design or any myriad of things that can be paid for via online work. And so I see these digital nomads, for me, I need a quiet space. So wherever I'm at, it's, usually wherever I'm staying has good Wi-Fi and I can work from home because I'm actually doing, Zoom. Other people don't need that. So they're out in the internet cafes around the world, sitting there and working and making their money while they're in some, island paradise somewhere and just enjoying it. So the ability to get paid online, however it is, and you can actually be creative and look for something, gives you the ability to have the world at your fingertips. Yes. And more countries now are actually welcoming digital nomads with open arms and even providing special visas to them. Nice. And so otherwise, if they don't, you can always go in on the tourist visa, and usually allows you a 90-day stay before you move on to the next place. Yes. And that gives you a real good, a 3 months is a good taste of a place. And then move on to the next place. But digital nomads now are using the world as their workplace and getting to see and experience while they live and work. And that's kind of what it's supposed to be. We shouldn't be living to work. We should have the experience. The experience should be more important. And that's what digital nomadism really does for people, is brings in that aspect.
What advice would you give to someone considering embarking on a nomadic lifestyle for the first time?
First, I would say don't consider it anymore. Make the decision to do it. Okay. And once you've made the decision to do it, just say, okay, this is so valuable. I must do it. And now I'm going to figure out how to do it. So the first step is just make the decision. Don't I don't know. I mean, it's pretty comfortable here. This is all I've known. But again, what I always kind of do is I put myself in my older self. Okay. Let's say I'm 85 years old looking back at my life. And what is that me going to look back and be happy or sad that I did or didn't do? And so that person is going to be looking back and like, oh yeah, I'm so happy that you stuck with that same job for 40 years and you were comfortable and, you know, it didn't
You
really
didn't
rock
step
the boat,
outside of your comfort zone.
and
No.
you stayed in your comfort zone, didn't rock the boat. Yeah, you got kind of what you needed, but you didn't see or experience anything in life. Or is that older me going to be happy that I went out and saw and experienced and had all of
Yes.
these adventures and saw the world? So the first decision is do it, because there's nothing else like it. And then the next consideration is, how are you going to do it? And
Right.
how are you going to do it? There's so many ways. If you're a student, take full advantage of the study abroad programs in university and college. They're part of you can actually put them on your student loans.
Right.
You can put them on your student loans. It's just a part of college. So if you can, most universities will offer 3 or 4 different countries that you can go and live in and study in as part of their program. So you're actually getting your accreditation like you were still in the US or whatever country you were in. But instead, you're living in Australia, you're living in Europe, you're living in South America, or wherever it is, and you're adding on another language as you do it. And that's what I did. I went ahead and made a double major. I added in Spanish as a double major because I will tell you what, you're going to be more marketable with a second language in whatever you do than the person who doesn't have that second language.
Right.
And for those who aren't students, maybe you just have money and want to be able to do it. Well, then, there people go around on boats. People, just start off with a plan. You can start off and have kind of a game plan in mind. And that's what I always do. And I start off and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go here, 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 and here, but I'm never married to the plan. Always be flexible, that you're going to hear from people things that are better than you knew before you started, and be flexible that you can actually pick up and go there, because you're the one who gets to make the decisions. And so that's the fun part of it. And then for the person that, maybe doesn't have the resources or is not in school, and you are from an English speaking country, then go see where you can teach in the world.
Yes.
Even
True.
if you don't have a degree, there's a lot of countries that you can actually go and teach in without a degree. If you have a degree, it doesn't even matter if you studied math, then you can teach in most of the world. Most of Asia welcomes English teachers, and parts of Europe as well. South America. There are so many places in the world where you can just use the language that you were born with as a way to live and work somewhere, what gives you the opportunity to go and explore other places. And if you don't want to do the English speaking, then, either find out if your job or your field offers something where you can live in another country, or start to think creatively about finding out what can make you a digital nomad. How can you make money online? What can you do that gives you the ability to go and live and work anywhere? And so there's so many things. But again, coming back to the first thing, just do it. There is nothing in life that will change you so much as living a nomadic lifestyle and really gaining that experience, and the people that you'll meet and the enriched experiences, and the friends that you will have for the rest of your life. Nothing like it. So
I
just
know, Tina, thinking about it though, I think people are afraid. Like how you decided to go on this journey basically with nothing. People are afraid of leaving America or leaving wherever they are, their comfort zones, to go somewhere and starting on
yes,
nothing, and how are they going to do it, and they're not going to be comfortable.
yes.
I think that's the main reasons people don't want to do it, because they don't want to be uncomfortable somewhere. But you can't be comfortable for the rest of your life and expect to learn or gain
Yeah,
as much
and that's the
experience.
thing. Fear is okay as long as you're not letting the fear dominate you. Because, the reality is that comfort zone is only going to be comfortable for so long. And at some point, you're going to pass the point. You're no longer growing. You're no longer experiencing. You're no longer learning. And if that's the case, what's the point of life? Just that I
True.
was comfortable? I mean, again, look at your older self in the future. What is she or he looking back and being like, oh, yeah, my goal of being comfortable my whole life was achieved, and I was just comfortable. Nothing was great, nothing was whatever, it was just comfortable. So being afraid is okay, but make the decision to do it anyways. And I'll use myself as an example. When I was 18, I lived in Costa Rica with my family, but when I was 20, I went to Spain, and as under a study abroad program. And so I was living there in the study abroad program. And then during the breaks, we had like 6 weeks off in the winter. And then we also had the summer. And most of the people went home to visit their families during Christmas. But I'm like, well, I'm in Europe for the first time. I'm not going to go home. This is my first time here. And so during the break, we had 6 weeks off, and I had planned with a boy, we were going to go backpacking. This is my first time to do it. Now, this was back in the days when there was no cell phone. Email had just become a thing. We had one email at the school that we would all write our emails, and it would be sent from the same email account. So there was no Skype. There was no anything. I mean, the only way to call was like an emergency collect call home. And so here I was at 20 years old, and I was raised very conservatively. I was raised a Seventh-day Adventist, and I'd only associated with a Seventh-day Adventist. So I really didn't know the world at all. I was so sheltered. And so here I planned this trip with this boy for the 6 weeks, and we were going to go. And then the last second, things didn't work out between he and I, and he's not going to go. And so, yeah, as a 20-year-old that knows nothing about the world and has never done something like this, yes, it was unnerving, and you can even say scary, because absolutely. But the thing is, you don't let the fear dominate you.
Yes.
That's where courage comes in. That's where bravery comes in. You're not courageous or brave just being courageous or brave. You're courageous or brave because you feel the fear, yet you do it anyway.
Yes.
And so, and that's what I did. I got my backpack and I got on those trains.
And you went.
I went and I got into situations and I sat there and I was mind blown all the time. And I just learned how not to let it show on my face. I'm like witnessing all of these things for the very first time, regular people. And I'm like, it was mind blowing, but I wouldn't have had it any other way. But yes, it was unnerving. And yes, it was scary at a lot of times, but I kept going.
Yes.
And that's what makes you stronger, is you feel it, you acknowledge it, but you do it anyways, because the benefits far outweigh the risk, and they far outweigh what you would have if you just sat there being comfortable. Yes. And so everything is like a cost benefit. You've got to weigh things. We're not talking something super risky. You're not, jumping off and doing bungee jumping, which isn't even that risky, but still you get my idea.
Right.
This isn't that risky. So you feel it and you do it anyways. And that brings your courageous and brave side, and you can't ever take that back. So you become so much stronger and you become so much enriched because you overrode that fear and you did it anyways, and you changed your life. And I don't know anyone, I'll tell you this, if you're hesitating, I don't know anyone who started that lifestyle, and even though they were afraid and whatever, that regretted doing it. I do not. And I have met a lot of travelers and nomads over the years since I was a teen, and I have never met one of them who's like, oh my gosh, I wish I was back in that job where I was like comfortable, that job and I knew everybody. I wish that I had never taken this step and gone out. I have never in all of my life heard anyone say they wish they were back in their comfort zone. No. Ever, ever, ever. So if you're like, oh no, I'm like, no, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. Make it what you want. That's right. Become brave and courageous.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Tina, if people want to find you, they want to get in contact with you, they want to speak to you a little bit more, where is it that they can?
Well, yes, I'm of course on social, so you can follow my adventures and the subconscious biohacking and my global adventures on Facebook. It's facebook.com. And it's the little slash, the middle line, not the middle line, the angled slash, World Nomad. So it's World Nomad. Facebook.com, World Nomad. And so, or if you want to search my name on Facebook, it's Tina-Nomad Higgins. On Instagram, it's Tina_Nomad. And TikTok is the same, Tina_Nomad. So facebook.com, World Nomad, and then find me, follow the adventures. You'll get to see all of the places. I've been to about 60 plus countries, and I've lived in 10 countries. And so, and if you ever have a question about, what it's like or how it is, then reach out to me. I'm happy to talk about this stuff. I'm happy to share, and people who want to. I have helped a number of people in my life who are like, yeah, I don't know. And I'm like, well, don't ever tell me that, I'm thinking about it. If you want to do it, I'll help you get the mindset and know what you need to do to go and do it. But just make the decision. But yeah, reach out to me. Any questions, I'm happy to answer. I love talking about this stuff. I'm passionate about it. It'll change your life.
Nice. I love that. Thank you so much, Tina.
Thank you, Jade, for having me.
It sounds so exciting now to just get upon. It gives you a new perspective and a new awareness.
Yes, and I mean, you've lived
Right.
in multiple countries as well, and are also multilingual, and you know what it does. I mean, you know that it changes the way you see life.
Yeah, it changes your perspective on things.
Hmm.
Your worldview changes when you get the experience to see different cultures.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And in this day and age, it is absolutely necessary that we start to change that world perspective. We need to start being responsible. So it's not just for you and getting out of your comfort zone and experiencing life. Everybody needs to start doing it the most as possible. There's some places in the world and third world countries that they can't. But if you at all are capable and even have English as a first language with no money, just that, do it. Because we have to take the responsibility to start to change it, because all of these conflicts that people are having most often come from a very limited perspective.
Yes.
And that this is right and you're wrong. I'm
Yes.
right, you're wrong. And we've got to get out of that. We've got to learn and grow and be better than that. And traveling and being a nomad does that better than anything else. And so there's a responsibility for us to change it and to pass it on to our children in a different way than we were raised.
That's very good, Tina. Very good.
Well, thank you, Jade, for having me. I loved it. I love it.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here and sharing about your journey and inspiring us, people, to go out also and take that step, to venture out. Don't just stay in your comfort zone. Venture out. It will be beneficial, not just now, but later. And sometimes we have to be uncomfortable now to be comfortable later in the lifestyle that we choose.
Exactly. And uncomfortable means you're about to grow, or
Right,
you're already
right,
growing.
right,
So look at it that way.
right.
If I'm uncomfortable, then
You're
I'm
growing.
growing.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Oh my
Exactly.
goodness. Thank you so much again. And thank you so much to our listeners on the Unfiltered by Jade. And we'll be back next week, Tuesday. Thank you.
Bam bam bide, bam bam bide, badu bidi bam bam bide.